Please, God.
Please,
Someone
God.
has to tell the man off.
Welcome to the Story Tinker podcast, a place for in-depth analysis of stories, mainly from Webtoon. Co-hosted by sharp, witty, and dare I say, thirsty fans, we dive deep in every episode, analyzing character struggles, relationship development, and of course, theories. We also interview people working in creative industries. You can follow the Story Tinker on YouTube, podcast platforms, and social media. For bonus content, sneak peeks, and more, you can support the Story Tinker on Patreon. We're really appreciative of your likes, subscribes, follows, comments, and ratings on all platforms. Thanks for listening to the Story Tinker, and let's get started. We flash back to a young Mr. Young watching a young Mrs. Young, lots of youngs, lunching her way around a roller derby, cleverly and aggressively making her way to the win, a move which has Mr. Young falling in love. Mom and daughter reunite, and Mrs. Young says hello again to Charles, which has Sam wondering where they met, which is apparently at the ill-fated holiday party. Charles blushes. Why? We discuss. Mr. Young rises again with a look of rage, and it takes Mrs. Young hogtying him and 2 sparkles to restrain him. Charles looks like he's about to throw up, and Mrs. Young urges Sam after him. Finally alone, Mrs. Young demands answers.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 162 of Let's Play, and we are here with Krystine.
Hi, guys.
Hello. Awesome. So last episode, as Krystine said before we started, we ended it with the potential of drama, and we'll see if we're going to get it, where Mr. Young was going ballistic with Charles, and Mrs. Young scrunches to stop them. All right, so let's take it away, Krystine.
So we just see it goes to like a flashback of, I guess, when Mr. Young met Sam's mom for the very first time, or like encountered her for the first time, and it's at a roller derby rink, which I'm like, no wonder. I'm like, she is badass. Like, if you know anything about roller derby, or like even just like you think roller derby, you think like badass chicks, and like as you see in this flashback, she is pretty badass.
Oh yes.
Mm-hmm. So we just see like Mr. Young like in the crowd, like cheering on, and just he has like the love lust eyes that Sam has, and I'm like, oh, see where it gets it from.
That's so funny. I'm trying to analyze the color to see if it's also like chestnut color, like hers
Mm-hmm.
got.
And you just see like the rink. I won't go into like much detail, but then like you see then the panel of Sam's mom, and she's in the rink, and she's looking pretty like badass. And so I looked up how roller derby kind of works, and is just like you earn points by literally like jamming into like the opponents.
Oh, because I was wondering, because I was like, they're clearly like shoving each other, and I thought in sports you're like generally not supposed to do that. Like you got penalties if you like manhandle the person, but okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, literally you earn points by like shoving the other team, which I'm like, no wonder they're pretty badass. So, and then you see Sam's mom kind of like trying to like get through the other team, but they're like blocking her in, and then one goes to like smash Sam's mom in the face with her elbow, and I'm like, that's illegal. Like I looked that according to that, you're only allowed to hit with your hips or your shoulders, so an elbow is illegal.
Or are you allowed to hit someone in the face?
Maybe with your shoulder, yeah. Like I mean, it's your shoulder, so I guess it's fair game. But like elbows, definitely not. Which is why the commentator like brings up like, oh, it's a penalty blow, like.
Right.
But the other opposing team ends up hitting their own person instead, because Sam's mom just like ducks under, which I'm like, that's really like, she's very reactive. Like she's quick on her feet, like,
yeah,
which that's good to know. Kind of shows like her character too. And then you see like Sam's mom like bump the other lady with her hip, which is a point, I guess. And you see the opposing team like go flying over like the railing, which I'm like, that's hard too, because like the rink is like on a slant.
Mhm.
So I'm
Oh,
like, that must be like a lot of force to like not only like push her, but like push her up and over the
yeah, that's a
rink
good point.
bar. So I'm like, she may be tiny and compared to like the other lady that she hit, but I'm like, she's pretty forceful, which I mean, you saw when she kind of like knocked over Mr. Young when he was like going after Charles. And then you see like Mrs. Young kind of like dashing forward, and you see this like really tall lady with like these long, gorgeous legs trying to like block her. And what does Mrs. Young do? She ducks under.
Yes, I
I'm
totally
like,
saw that coming. Did you?
yeah. But also I was like, those are really long legs.
I know. Yeah. Once in a while, I'll see someone who actually does have long legs like that. I'm like, oh, okay, so it's not like just fictional. Like sometimes some people do have really long legs.
Yep. And so we see I guess Mrs. Young's team, the honeypots, win, and then you just see Mr. Young with his hard eyes. He's like, I think I'm in love.
So cute. And he looks just like himself, just with less gray, you know, a little bit less hair, but he's still like the same giant physique and like,
yeah, this big, muscly dude.
Yeah. And he's that way, you know, he loves, we've seen that he loves his wife when she like is, like you said, badass, and he's always been that way. It's really cute. Yeah. Yoel's the same way. He loves
and it's funny because like when he described Mrs. Young like going through like the you know, the troubles of having Sam and all that, like he kind of made her seem that she was like this little fragile thing. And then you see her in a roller derby ring. I'm like, she is not fragile.
Yeah, no, I never thought she was. I don't think they're necessarily, you know, associated strength and you know, fertility ease or whatever. But yeah, it's so nice to see her in this role. I'm not surprised, and it's really cute to see her like this as a young person, just so gutsy. I'm like, she's proud of herself too. She's like very self-assured, and she knows that she's good.
Yeah. And I'm like, I wish I could do that. My knees could never.
Get referee.
I could, yeah.
It's cute. All the sparkles around her. I love how she's so proud of herself.
I know.
Yeah, and then it goes like, it's the same position, you know, she's looking up and smiling, and then, you know, it goes to present day, which is a really nice transition. And you know, it's just Sam's like, oh, good morning, Mom. I didn't know you would be here today. And she says, oh, I wanted to stop by to see you. How you been? I just realized Sam's really short. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Her mom is standing on Mr. Young. Never mind.
With stilettos on.
Yeah, I was like,
wow.
She's really tall. But then I see, yes, she's standing on Mr. Young with the stilettos. Yes, so no wonder she's taller. And she's like, I've been okay, but what about Dad? Is he okay? Of course he's okay. You know it takes more than that to finish your father.
I'm like, true.
So like the stuff like this seems to have happened before.
Oh, I would love to see it like when they were like kids and stuff. Like
just every time he puts him in his place, like he gets all sorts of physical abuse. Not in that way, but whatever, in the exaggerated comic way. And she steps off, very funny. It's like, now then, how are you doing, sweetheart? So good to see you. I'm good, Mom. How's Florida and Hawaii? Hawaii was wonderful. Florida was Florida. That is such a dig at Florida.
Ooh, poor Florida.
I know.
But also like it's Florida.
I don't have much experience with Florida. Like I went to Disney World or Land, whatever's there, when I was a kid. And I drove there just very briefly and I spent time with my family there for like 2 days. And I didn't leave the house, so I don't know. I really don't have any experience in Florida.
I just know all like the internet stories and stuff. So I'm like, oh, yeah. Florida is another kind of.
Exactly. I've seen people make fun of Florida. But.
Yeah.
And she asked, there's this outfit I bought you. Yeah, how do I look? Beautiful, sweetheart. And you would look good on you. That's nice that, you know, she's buying her the outfits. And you know, I don't know if Sam really ever wore the outfits her mom bought her before. I get the sense that she didn't have the confidence to wear it until her whole evolution with Charles, where he like sees her as a woman. So it's probably like a you know, something that Mrs. Young, I bet you, Mrs. Young realizes that it's because of Charles that she's dressing more womanly.
Probably. I mean, she seems pretty astute, so.
Yeah, and Charles is literally right there. And when you see, if you see your daughter and she's with the guy, and like previously probably she like didn't even talk to Charles and she was super intimidated around him, and like I bet she could just tell just by their posture, just by how close they are, just like little things, be like, yeah, they're together.
It's funny you brought that up because I was at a family thing, and I was sitting across from where my kind of like where my extended family was, and my niece was with this guy, and like I saw this guy like sitting like nearby like my niece, but like I didn't think anything of it, and then I was like, oh, whatever. And then my brother comes by and he's like, who's that guy? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I just figured he's a family friend or something. He's like, no, look at them. And I'm like, oh. And so like the whole time I was like just eyeing this dude. And then like eventually like my niece comes up and is like, hi, this is my boyfriend. I'm like, you could have like introduced him sooner.
That's funny. You're being the watchful auntie.
Yeah.
That's cute.
I mean, like she's an adult, so I'm like, you know, she can do what she wants, but I'm also like, so who's this guy?
Oh yes, it's fun getting all the tea. And Charles is just watching their interaction, and now Mrs. Young addresses him. And you can't really read the look on his face, but then Mrs. Young turns to him. She's like, good morning to you, Charles. It's good to see you again. There's a little smile on her face where it's like, oh, again. Sam's like, oh, she's just like, what? Look on her face. And he's like, oh, it's a pleasure to see you too, Mrs. Young. Are you well? Yes, thank you. And it sounds like you two know each other. And Mrs. Young looks at him and she's like, oh, at a holiday party for your father's company. And he blushes. Okay, what do you think happened at that holiday party?
It can't be the same holiday party where like he got drunk and like, is it?
Well, it's the rule. It's like Awesome's razor. Go for the simplest explanation. We've only heard one holiday party mentioned. It's been mentioned as like something that Mr. Young made Mr. Young mad at Charles. Well, I think it's very possible that he could have, what a lot of people are saying is, hit on Mrs. Young, and then maybe that's why he got so drunk and then started complaining about his wife, because he just failed romantically in a massive way. And then he's like, oh shoot, and he gets drunk to like cover up his shame, and then he just like remembers his wife and how everything was so horrible and starts crying in public.
Poor Charles. He tries to shoot his shot and it's like, nope, woman's taken. And it's like, ugh, poor guy.
I don't know. I will be honest. I did not think of that. I just thought that she saw him, whatever embarrassing thing it was. Like I thought she saw him. It didn't occur to me that like he was hitting on her, but so many people said it that I'm just gonna go with their judgment. Because he is blushing. So yeah, I can see it. She's also probably young looking and very beautiful. Model. So, and that definitely would explain why Mr. Young hates him.
yeah.
Or is mad at him.
Because we still don't know like what vendetta he has against Charles. Yeah, and that would make a whole lot of sense.
Someone touching his honeyboo. Oh yeah. Or whatever, hitting on his honeyboo. Speaking of whom, he jumps up and he says, Jones! And I look at his face.
And he's deadpan, just like, tell my mother I love her.
I know, right? He's just, every time he faces his death with equanimity and courage.
Just like he's resigned to just like, okay, this is when I die. Like, poor Charles.
His hand is like reaching. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. But Mrs. Young grabs his hand and then she yanks his tie down, his tie off, and then we hear "Argra," and both Charles and Sam are just looking at him. Sam is like horrified. Charles is like, oh my goodness. And we see Mrs. Young ham-tying, whatever it's called. I don't know.
Hogtying him.
Hogtying, thank you. Mr. Young, hands behind his back, her heels are once again trapping him. And she's like, there will be none of that, Samuel. Are you calling to calm down or do I have to hogtie you? And he's just like angry. His eyes are white. His foot. Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, if this were another situation, he probably would have liked it.
I know. That's exactly what I was thinking. How do you know how to do this so quickly?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I 100% positive they do this on the regular.
And also I'm thinking too, I'm like, they're in like the lobby or whatever, like of the building. And I'm like, do they not have like specters being like, what? Or they're just like, oh, it's that couple again.
So, I mean, I think like the same thing with like Marshall picking Sam up and doing it. I think it's like exaggerated for the cartoon. Like, I don't think it's like kind of actually happening. It's like, I don't know. It's like exaggerated. You know, like we have to suspend our disbelief. Like if I'm going to have to like put it down to like what's really happening, I would say she's like admonishing him and holding him back physically in some way. I think for someone to actually do this is not very normal. So I think it's just exaggerated for fun.
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't know. And, you know, Sam and Charles are just looking aghast. And then she smiles and she has a bunch of sparkles around her. She's like, let's take a couple of deep breaths. And she's, you know, like, oh, sparkle time, you know, time to be happy. And he's just like, feral dead roar. Oh my God, Mr. Young. Oh my God. You are such a handful. And so she's like, well, things have to be done. And she grabs not one, but two sparkles out of the air and she stabs him on the back with them. And he once again is like, roar! But then he loves it, which is totally, once again, kinky. And he just like droops down, he blushes, and he's like, oh, what a woman. He likes it. He likes it. Oh, and poor but Charles looks like he's about to throw up.
Yeah, I'm like, what is that look, Charles?
I don't know. I don't know if it's like Charles is just not used to this kind of craziness and he's like, this is my boss being like stabbed with like imaginary sparkles, or maybe there is something more to it. Like maybe there's something in his past. I don't know. Oh, yeah. Or maybe it's like needles.
Oh,
It's a sharp edge.
There you go. That makes a whole lot of sense. Yeah, because I was like, why is he reacting like that? I'm like, I would have just been like, but he looks like he's gonna vomit.
Yeah, he's like, his chin is quivering, his mouth is like all thing, everything. It's hilarious. And she's like, Mrs. Young looks to Mara, honey, you should head up to the office. I'll stay here and sort out your father. Like, and Charles just like gulping and running. His face is black, and he's like, an excellent idea, Mrs. Young. She's like, Charles? She said, and then she's like, you should go after him, sweetheart. He's looking a bit faint, which is, yeah, Mrs. Young. You know.
She knows.
Yes.
She knows.
I was like, right, thanks, Mom. It's like, Charles, wait, I'll walk with you. And she runs and dashes with Mrs. Young watching because she's observing. And she's like, Samuel Young, what have you done? You'd better start explaining yourself right now. And like, her shadow is looming over him ominously. He's like, I'm in trouble.
And he has the sweat drop and his eyes are just like, oh shit, I got caught.
Oh my God, I cannot wait. The drama you were hoping for, please God, someone has to tell the man off.
And it better happen next week, or else I'm gonna be so mad. We're gonna be suspended for like. Ugh.
Yes, this man needs a good dressing down. Someone needs to tell
Mhm.
him it is not normal to stalk your daughter who is having a normal adult relationship.
Mm-hmm. Consensual adult relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad that like Mrs. Young is getting to him first rather than Mr. Young like confronting Sam 1st
Mhm.
and like or confronting Sam and Charles first. I'm glad she's like, okay, what did you do?
Mhm.
Because that would have been real bad.
Right. Yeah, he would have exploded.
Mm-hmm.
He might have even killed Charles for all we know. He's giant. He's angry, and he's obviously out of control.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it would have killed him because it would have, been a very sad end to the story, and it would have been a departure from the romantic comedy genre, but still, romantic comedy or tragedy.
Yeah, tragedy.
Murder.
Oh man. Yeah. I love getting the background of Sam's mom. Like we finally get to know her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she is a cool person, right? She was always she was introduced a little later, right? I think than a bunch of the other characters, if I recall correctly. We never really got such a good handle on her. Like we've seen her mainly in context of her interacting with other people as opposed to like her own person.
So and that huge like painting or picture frame that Mr. Young has of her in his office.
It's funny. Yes, I'm happy that she is on the case.
Mm-hmm. And I'm happy that she knows that like he did something, that there's something between Sam and Charles and that he's not okay with it, which means that he must have done something. Like she's very astute.
Right. The fact that she says, "What have you done?" It's not like, "Why are you acting crazy?" She realizes that he must know something that involves shady ways of getting to that knowledge, because she's like, "What have you done?" rather than, "What are you doing? Like, why are you overreacting?" Like she's just standing next to this guy. I think she understands that he must have done that some kind of stalking.
That he already did do something, not like yeah.
Smart Mrs. Sam. Samantha. All right, do you want to do a bonus question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you to my current patrons: Susie, Lady Leprous, Lily, Jenny, Molly, Veronica, Emily, 𝗪𝗏, 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 Meg, Anne Rose, Priya, Alexa, Misty, Joanne, Patty, Milda, Esther, Watching People, Taurus, Papa Seed, Marie, Emily, Jean, Jen, Erin, Kay, Lily, Beckett, Duranda, Krystine, Sadie, Kelly, Daniel, Teresa, Mrs. Castaldo, Kaylee, and Jen. Your support is truly appreciated.